Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who did a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time, unless we are on Indiemission, where we are covering the second half of the amazing and very, very, sharp change at the end novel, yes. Revenge Arc by Cat Voleur.
I love this book.
It's so good.
We said last week, does it mean something about us that we love this book so much? Do we need more therapy?
Maybe, but until we get that therapy, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and/or enjoying?
So I've been reading more of One Punch Man, the manga, and we're still in this arc that I don't know. I kind of wish we could get back to Saitama and Genos because they were fun and interesting, and I'm just not super interested in this side arc that we've gone on, and I kind of just wish it would be over. And I'm hoping it's over now with this volume 14, that it seems like finally we're maybe getting out of this and getting back to like the class action heroes and the fighting of villains and everything, rather than all of this like martial arts ring fighting situation where I'm just not feeling this. I really appreciate the humor of Saitama and Genos and their dynamic in the earlier volumes, and this past several volumes have been just a lot of this martial arts fighting ring that I'm just not that interested in and I don't care about all of these characters that have been introduced, honestly. It just seems like some of the charm that was in the earlier volumes, I'm starting to not feel it in these, where I'm like, how much more do I progress on until we can get back to Saitama doing his hero stuff? Too much. But I own 4 more volumes, so I'm going to at least read through 18 because I own them. But yeah, so I'm through 14 on that, and at the point where I'm just like, please get me out of this martial arts situation because I just can't take it anymore. And I would say overall, it's obviously a series that I'm consuming and it's easy to consume. It's not like it's horrible or anything or off-putting by any means.
Yeah.
And I think that for sure the earlier volumes I was enjoying and thinking were really fun, but I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite manga series by any means. Vinland Saga is elite status, and I don't know that anything I've read can touch it in terms of manga. But yeah, this one I'm just get me out of this arc. So hopefully the light is at the end of the tunnel.
Sometimes you're reading something because you're like, yeah, I like it, but it's not gonna be the best thing I've ever read. It's just gonna be okay.
That's kind of where I'm at with it, where I'm just okay,
Fair
ready
enough.
to be done. And then the other thing I've been reading, which is highly enjoyable and did not expect it to, I guess I just didn't know what to expect with this novel in general, was Shadow of a Dead God by Patrick Samphire. This is the Mennick Thorne series.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
really?
it so much. Yes, it's great. So and I don't know if it's just me having now a fondness for Jim Butcher and urban fantasy, but this is also unproblematic. And I did texted you about it and I was like, Hannah, this is awesome Dresden Files, but not problematic. Dresden Files, and you sent me a text that said it can be done.
That's how I felt.
And yes, it can. I mean, Mennick Thorne is a great character. This is super fun, punchy humor and really unique, world, because it's our world basically, but also in the past kind of. And so it's kind of I'm trying to think, probably similar to Scott Lynch too, maybe. I haven't read that, but I've read Among Thieves by MJ Kuhn, and it's giving me vibes of that type of background where it's somewhat of a real world setting, but we have kind of medieval things happening. But Mennick Thorne is a mage who is on quest. He gets hired to do things. He also just is someone who's struggling down on his luck and is, kind of reluctant to jump in and do things, but also just a really great character. I just think that the dialogue in this is awesome. I think that Mennick's voice is awesome, and I also just kind of appreciate the way that Samphire has written this as much more of a take. I mean, it's similar to what we get in Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, where there's like a lot of takes on like class too,
Yeah.
but this is more so, and I really appreciate it. Like it's just hitting me in the right spot, and I'm like, these books are awesome. I'm probably gonna finish up the first one today at some point because they're just a breeze. Like I sat down the other night to just read, and I like pulled this up on my Kindle. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll try this one. I have had it on my Kindle for a while. In with a shorter period of time, I just like breezed through 80 pages, and I was like, wow, that that went quick. And
That's
this is a long
amazing.
book, so it's total like perfect popcorn book that you just like give me more, give me more. And yeah, I am loving it so far. Absolute joy to have stumbled upon a book like this that I'm just like, okay, this was not what I was expecting. Like Shadow of a Dead God, I don't think this is like I was not expecting this style of book. I think I was expecting more of like epic fantasy or something with that name and everything. And also
Yeah.
knowing what the cover used to look like on the book, I'm not sure what I was expecting. But it's great. And Samphire's writing is phenomenal too. Really appreciate what he's doing with the book. And I'm gonna probably just jump right into book two because it's so good. I love Medic Thorn.
That's amazing. I love it.
So the other thing I've been enjoying is I usually don't watch comedy specials, but I watched a couple comedy specials on HBO Max, Max or HBO, whatever, HBO Max, whatever they changed
It
it
doesn't
to now.
matter.
It doesn't
We all know
matter.
what we're talking about.
I don't know why they feel the need to change this so many times. It's stupid. But anyways, that place. I watched Rose Matafeo's Rose Matafeo's On and On and On, and also James Acaster's Heckler's Welcome.
Love him so
Rose's was
much.
really good. And I obviously watched these because I've been on a Taskmaster binge, and
Yeah.
these two were some of my favorite contestants, and also found out that they dated and had to creep on them more. But Rose's was really good, and I especially appreciated how she was pointing out that she has reached an age now that a lot of her comedy is very physical to the point where she has to wear knee pads to complete her sets because she's dropping down on her knees and doing stuff, and it was
Same
just
girl, same.
getting too hard. And I loved some of that. But yeah, she had a really good special. And then James Acaster's Heckler's Welcome, the whole like premise of that is that he went on this comedy tour and he was inviting people to heckle him,
Hmm.
and there's like a really funny moment in the special where he's wearing a green jumpsuit throughout, and someone yells to him, "Oi, Kermit!" And obviously he's a skinny man who is wearing all green, and he just like stops and he's like, "Ah, you got me. You totally got me. I don't have anything to say to Kermit." And so he said he kind of did this as like a an experiment to see
Yeah.
what it would be like to actually have people heckling him and how he would respond to the situations and everything. And I thought it was just a really unique comedy special because he was so reflective on his own life and his experiences as a child and in therapy and what he's working through currently and everything in his career and comedy in general. He also had biting remarks at like current things happening in the world and
He's a
people and
very
everything.
funny and on point person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I thought it was really a unique special because he wrapped it up in such like a heartwarming and like positive spin to have everyone kind of reflect on being kind to themselves,
Oh,
because
that's
that was
nice.
something that he was working on, was being kind to the little kid inside of himself. And I was like, that's it was just a really unique special where I laughed a lot and thought it was very funny. I appreciated the heckles that he got and how the idea behind the heckler's welcome was presented and everything, and just his reflections and also the way that he put such a positive spin on it at the end, where I think a lot of comedians can be a little bit mean, and
Yeah.
this ended up being such a positive thing where I was like, this is a very unique special, and
Yeah,
I
that's
really, really
nice.
liked it. So yeah, that's what I've been reading, watching, and or enjoying. So, what about you?
Um, well, I did my recent rewatch of Scream last night.
Mhm.
So that was fun. I
Do you
think this
watch all of
time,
them or just the first one usually?
so I've actually watched all of them for 2 years now. This year in the third year, I think I might skip Scream 2 and 3 and go straight to Scream 4. Not in any bad way, but just because like they didn't hit quite right. Or like I've seen them a couple of times. Plus, this weekend I was home alone, and Scream 3 has like a really creepy ghost scene that freaks me out to no end, even though it's the worst Scream of all of them.
Mm.
But I will
Okay.
always want to like watch something and get something new out of it. And there are times in my life where I'm like, if I rewatch Scream 2, I don't think I'm gonna get much out of it this time around. Or if I watch
Hmm.
Scream 3. So like, and this year I didn't do like a Jaws watch because I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna get anything new out of Jaws this year. Because like
That's
when I
like
was
your 4th of July thing, right?
yeah, that's my 4th of July one. So Scream this year, like I guess I really enjoyed watching Matthew Lillard's performance this year
Hmm.
because I don't think I've ever kind of honed in on him as an actor in that movie. Like he's taking wild swings, but I think he's an interesting character because I mean you and I've done a Scream watch together.
Hmm.
But Matthew Lillard's character, for those who are surprised by Scream, move forward, he's one of the killers. And there's just certain moments where you realize that he kind of like at one point Sydney's like, "Well, we know Billy's excuse for trying to murder all these people. What's yours?" And he's like, "Peer pressure. I don't know." And it's like I do actually think he was someone who was heavily influenced by peer pressure on this watch. Like Billy was very much
Hmm.
a strong influence over him. And like even when she calls the police, he's just like, oh, my parents are gonna be so pissed at me. And it's just like it's someone who definitely wasn't thinking through all the things that were
Hmm.
happening. And so I really liked looking at his character a little bit deeper. And I'd seen a recent TikTok where people talked about a theory that he never killed anyone, that it was all Billy and he was just like
Oh, interesting.
there to kind of be there and to chase around sometimes. So um I did think that that was interesting to see. So I did that rewatch. I kind of started watching Buffy again. That's a wild show. So wild to watch after you find out so much more about Joss Whedon because he was not a good person. And then you
Yeah.
watch the show and it's like he has a very strong obsession with older men and younger women in a really weird way
Yeah, I
that
don't like
he
that.
is heavily fixated on. Because like I'm in season 3. One of the characters, Cordelia, who ends up going on to be one of Angel's main love interests in the spin-off of Angel. And I always liked their relationship when I watched Angel because I'd never seen the
Hmm.
Buffy portion of things. But I really liked them together. And she looks older, so it felt less weird in Angel. But they have her as an 18-year-old girl where one of the main characters of the season is this like adult man coming to help Buffy out. And then the other teacher at one point, like they're at prom, and he's like, well, I could go see Cordelia. And he's like, she's 18 and you have a very low emotional intelligence. Just go be with her. And I'm like, that's not appropriate. That's
Right.
not the advice you should be making. It should not be you are so low emotionally you can only date young women who are not fully formed
Yeah.
yet. That's gross and like go
It's
work on
creepy.
yourself so you can date women your own age then. Like that's actually the answer. So I didn't like that.
It's also just giving that message to likely a lot of the audience was young women watching this show, I
Yes.
would assume. So that's then perpetuating this idea that you want to go for older guys because guys your age aren't as ready to be there as you are.
Well, and they always talk about like emotional maturity between men and women. And it's like, yeah, there are some things that like men might do at a younger age, but it doesn't mean that they're more mature or
Mhm.
less mature. It's based on how we
Right.
treat people. And so it's just really weird. And
Yeah.
I did not like that. Um, so Buffy's always a weird one when I jump back into it because this is my first watch and I feel like I'm less connected to the characters and I often forget I'm
Mhm.
watching and then take long breaks. But yeah, that's kind of it for TV shows recently, other than, what we're making uh content about. And then for
Yes.
watching, I recently finished the next
Oh,
in
you mean reading?
oh, sorry, yeah, reading.
You're doing reverse
Um
this week. It's
I
always been
am
me. I feel
doing
like we
reverse.
weirdly always do reading and then watching. You started with watching
I
and now you're
know.
going to reading.
It's because I didn't have that much for reading. I did the third book in the Wayward children's series, Beneath the
Oh, okay.
Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire. This one is a little bit of a remix because I feel like the first two books are a lot darker, and then this one is like still dark because they're always a little bit dark, but like
Hmm.
very whimsical. Because in this book, um, we find out that like one of the characters who was murdered in the last book, like in a different timeline, she lived and returned home and had a child, and that child has to come back and get them to somehow bring her mother back to life in some way
Wow.
so that she can survive. Because it's like very Back to the Future-esque, where she's like, "Where is my mom? I'm
Mhm.
disappearing. Like, what did she do? What did you guys do to her?" And her trying to like go on this mission with them. And like Seanan McGuire does such a good job of like building out this world that is very mysterious and that you can't always comprehend, but like you want to go and dive deeper into. So I'm really enjoying this series a lot.
I'm not remembering, Hannah. Is this one where you can pretty much start with whatever one you want?
Yes, there's always like characters from the previous books. Like so
Okay.
if you do follow the straight line, you kind of learn what's going on more and more, but the timelines are often like kind of wishy-washy.
Okay.
Um and like you have different people doing different things at different times, so like I feel like you can learn at any moment what went on. You're just kind of ruining some surprises sometimes. It's
Sure.
like if you read Murder by Out of Order, you could probably do it, but like
Hmm.
you might get a little bit more if you read them in order. So,
Okay. I
um,
just know that the that series is pretty popular on Libby. There's pretty
yeah, Libby has so many
wait lists.
like yeah, oh, that's waitlist on. Oh yeah, I actually listen to it all on Hoopla. So Hoopla offers
Okay.
them, and so I've been listening to them over on Hoopla. Um,
I just know that there's wait lists on Libby for at least through my library there were, and I was like, there were some that were available like later on in the series, but like the
mm.
first few were like not available for months. So I was like, are these books that you can read out of order?
I think you can. I did Where the Drowned Girls Go, and I think it is very much heavily marketed on you could read whatever, whenever. Because like these aren't books where it's like I have to know the mystery, like you can be like, oh, okay, but like now that I know that that's what happens, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Um, but the first book details this like huge storyline, and then the second book kind of goes back in time. So I feel like you don't
Okay.
necessarily have to follow along. So jump in where Libby lets you, Laura.
I, I may.
Yeah, because I've been enjoying them. I've read four out of all of her books, and one of them I read out of order. So I wouldn't say
Okay.
that it's like deeply ingrained because I didn't even follow the path of read them right in directly in order. Um, I will say I got really confused because one of the people who dies in the first book, I was like, I thought I read about her in like book whatever, and
Hmm.
then they brought her back to life.
Uh,
It's like, oh, I did read about her, so it was good to know I was right. I was right. Um, but yeah, I haven't been reading. Well, I started reading Harrow the Ninth, and that'll be a lot deeper of a dive
is
for
this a
me.
reread one for you or no?
I read Gideon twice because I wanted
Okay.
to read Harrow, and I read Gideon like 2 years ago, and
Hmm.
so I couldn't quite remember everything that happened, and I feel like I gleaned more on my second read than I did on my
Sure.
first. So I was glad that I reread it, but Harrow, it's my first read through, about 50 pages in, but we had to read some stuff for the podcast this week, and
Hmm.
I just didn't get as heavily involved, and I think I'm trying to be okay with reading a thicker book and maybe only getting to maybe 95 books read this year, which is the lowest I've had in a long
What?
time. I know. I feel like
What a slacker.
I know what a slacker. Only 95 books, and like Laura and I have said before, my editing group is like 15 pages per submission, and three people submit, so that takes up a
Hmm.
lot of my reading time too. So, but it's great. I love some of the books I've been reading out of it, so I'll always try to boost their work when it comes out. So. But with that said, should we dive in to the to this wonderful
Should we
book?
enter the web,
Or should we enter the deep web, the
the
deep
deep web? I'm
web,
afraid.
and see how we feel about this ending? Because
Can I
whoa,
tell you that there were some things I read about in here that I wanted to Google? Like, is this the thing? And I was too afraid to Google it
oh, you didn't want to find it. Well, I
because I
mean,
didn't want to get a virus, first of all. And I,
well, we're gonna talk to Kat soon, so she's coming on next week, guys. So we get to go directly to the source
yes,
and ask all about it. So I'm
send
excited
over
for
your
that.
notes, Kat.
I think we might interview her the day this comes out. So guys, if you get us your
Mm,
quick chats before we talk to her, we can maybe ask her a question from you.
yeah.
But yeah, so we left off on part three, the revenge arc. And
Hmm.
we get an article about another murdered woman in chains. It was alleged that she was part of this online cult, and she just got over a fight with her mom where she was going to go meet her internet boyfriend named Tor, creator. Uh,
Yes.
then we have a
Did
Discord.
I think that that was a little too similar to Tor.com? A little bit, because I did get confused. Like, Tor, the publishing group, what are you doing getting involved in this?
I immediately saw it and I was like, ah, creator.
Oh, yeah.
Then we have a Discord thread asking about a copycat killing based on Red, and a lot of people confusing the creator of the webcomic for the Edgelord creator who we've been talking about,
Hmm.
who's been like building these fake websites and saying that they're going to start a red room on the deep web. There's also infighting of like a lot of people being like, this is just awful, and then we do have the Reddit thread posting discussing all these issues of the killer
Hmm.
and noting that they do have to follow all of their guidelines moving forward, and they're getting a lot of bad flack as fans of Red, but that they aren't sociopaths for enjoying this work. But this is uncertain times. We can't be infighting. We can't be threatening people, all these different things. So we know that it's just a huge problem. Um,
It's interesting to me, too, that it took so long for a mod to get involved.
yeah, you would think like they would be like, no, get out of here. I
Because
mean,
I've been
maybe
in
they,
some rooms where it's like, oh, the mod gets involved like immediately, and it's like, okay, well, people are just joking. Calm it down.
yeah,
So
I know.
it was mind blowing to me that it took this long for a mod to
I
get
mean,
involved.
it kind of depends on who's
I
in
guess it's
what
the,
group.
yeah,
Because
I
we,
guess it
we,
depends on the group.
yeah, because then we also see a podcast about the recent killing, with affiliates about the recent body found. Like I did like how she set up, Kat set this up because it does look like a podcast episode where it's like, here are
Yeah.
the websites you can use for my discounts, um, called like Morbidity or something.
Mhm. It's
Uh,
mortality, isn't it?
Mortality, sorry,
And
yes.
yeah, uh, yeah, it's on listed on Wattpad, I think, is what it was from a
Yeah,
discussion.
no, that okay, and that is that there is also a Discord discussing this podcast,
Oh,
calling
okay.
it disgusting. Then there are people who are saying that the YouTuber should be deplatformed, and some even go as hard as saying that they should be the next victim. Um,
Yeah,
and
this
it
is
gets real
totally
dark.
valid for what the internet is like, though, where some people
Yes.
like someone says like, "Ugh, this person sucks," and then the next person is like, yeah, they should die, and it's like, whoa,
And then the
okay.
other guy is like, you need to calm down here. And then we have a person named H. March talking about how the creator wants to kidnap Riley. And that's the whole point of all of
Mhm.
this. And then we see Riley's review of Pink Mace online, saying that it didn't work, that it's just this stupid little pink plastic cap. And her mom is the one who bought it for her, even though that they don't even talk anymore. And then we see Riley talking to who she thinks is Mila on Twitter.
Mhm.
Mila asks if Riley regrets creating the comic or how it ended. And Riley's like, I don't really regret it. It's the ending that it needed, with like Red getting this revenge, we find out. Um, and then they ask Mila if like they regret it, and they say that like, well, it's hard because Red never got her answers, and
Yeah.
Riley says that's the point, that Red had enough torture by this point.
Mhm.
Then who we
It
believe to
it
be,
is interesting too, though, because it's like, well, I'm not ready. I don't think that its ending is done. Like, I'm not ready for it to be done, which
yeah,
is like the immediate tip off that to Riley, it seems that this is not Mila.
yeah, because Mila would have been fine with
Yeah.
ending, and we think it's probably the creator or someone else,
Hmm.
starting to be weird and saying that they aren't done, like you said, and they said, um, he like didn't think this up. Riley's the one who thought it up, and
Hmm.
Riley's like, "Who are you?" And it really creeps me out.
It was
Um,
very creepy.
and then it looks like they sent an attachment in this Twitter thread message of a
Yeah, like a
girl
comic.
strapped down as a comic with metal, saying it's time to begin as a pseudo creator puts a ball gag in her mouth. So heavy trigger warnings because
Hmm.
we're about to get into it. We have notes from the person we believe is the creator about finding information from Riley's journals after abducting her. It's kind of amorphous if that's what happened, but they start talking about how
Hmm.
they had to get into their home. They call Riley they.
Hmm.
They know how easy it was to take her in, because she just had this stupid little pink plastic thing that didn't even work. So it's a
And they really
callback.
just Yeah, it's a callback to the review.
Yes.
That she doesn't even have ways to defend herself, and
Hmm.
it's really like twisted because this is still referred to as like a game
Yes.
to this person, and I really did not like that. I mean, it really freaked me out.
It's very upsetting. And I think in this section, I was actually a little bit confused. So when I was like going over to reread and like look at things to prepare for this, I
Hmm.
was like, oh, I understand a lot more now. So sometimes that
Hmm.
happens with me where I'm like, I'm on a ride, but I'm not asking too many questions. And I'm like, I need to do a
Yeah.
reread of this. So we do have, um, they said that they found this manila envelope in a
Hmm.
shoebox. So they knew it was important. And then we get this
Well,
like,
yeah, because they were looking all over the place and they were just like, this is such a boring person. This was supposed to be the great Riley Langdon, and they're just a boring person. And then they find this folder and they're like, this is what
this
it
is
is.
And like upon rewrite, it's also interesting to read this section because like they are so unimpressed with Riley and like it's
Hmm.
like this earth-shattering thing that's happening to them. So,
It's
um,
interesting though, because I think that actually is a thing in a lot of circles where people uphold creatives to
oh
be
yeah.
these like unreachable people that have so much like going on. And it's like, no, they're just normal people that, you know, buy cheap things online and they don't work out for them, or they walk their dog or watch Love is Blind or whatever. Not everybody is super
So there's
interesting.
a poem that I remember from my English class that I think about constantly, and sorry for this, but it's a Jonathan Swift poem called The Ladies'
Hmm.
Dressing Room. Um, where it's talking about like a man who puts this woman up on a pedestal and like she's beautiful, she's a goddess. And then he sneaks into her room to see like this beauty. And I pulled it up because like it's just it's beautiful, like where it's like an inventory
Hmm.
follows here. And first a dirty smock appeared beneath the armpits well besmeared. Stefan the rogue displayed it wide and turned it round on every side. On such a point few words were best that Stefan bids us guess the rest, but swearing how damnably the men lie, and calling Celia sweet and cleanly. And it's just about like how gross everything is. Like there's hair sticking out of places. There's like, and this is a line in the poem that I think about constantly where they um I have to pull it up. Sorry. Uh he finds her he goes, which waft a stink around every room, thus finishing his grand survey. Disgusted Strephon stole away, repeating in his amorous fits, oh Celia, Celia, Celia shits, because he found her chamber pot.
Amazing.
So people look up because it's a long poem, but that is the line that always thinks I think about when it comes to stuff like this, where it's like Celia, Celia, Celia shits, like
Mhm.
which I think is
Everybody
very apt for
poops.
this. And then we get like these sections of Riley's notes interspersed with the
Hmm.
who we believe to be the creator's notes. So
Yes.
Riley's brainstorming ideas like the Lolita pitch or the Red Room, and she like circles Red Room.
Hmm.
And then like
Yeah, you see like some of her rejections
yes.
for her work and everything, or how she's submitted some things to certain people and been rejected, and new
Yes.
ideas, etc.
And we find out in some of the notes, they start talking about like how Riley is this real red, but that the creator's website is like lacking in his full formedness of it, and it hints to us that he is dead and he failed to bring about his legacy. But this person is finishing the project for him, which
Hmm.
is scary. And then we switch on over to Riley in 2013 running away from home. We find out that her mom, and we found this out in her review, but her mom is obsessed with MLMs and steals from Riley, and
Hmm.
found a bunch of journals with Riley's original ideas and burned them all when she was young.
Yeah.
And so her mom threatened her, saying she either had to like get into this MLM group to make her money and pay, like or pay her rent. And so
Hmm.
Riley ran away to be with this man Michael, who we met earlier, and he's probably
That
older.
was concerned about Riley. Yeah.
Yes. And that this was like the person that she lived with for a while, we find
Hmm.
out about. And they had like a very weird type of relationship because he was a man she met on the internet. Um, and then we switch back to this, red inked person who's talking about story ideas and how like Riley was affected by her mother, and this like Michael man, like kind of talking about the fact that they think it's interesting that like she had a life outside of their own obsession to her.
Hmm.
Um,
It's also interesting to me too, the critiques that are made of Riley, how they're like, really? Are you serious? This is what she thought, or this is all she did, and it's baffling.
Well, because it's the obsession of someone who they put on a pedestal, who
Yeah.
they were like very into this cult-like atmosphere,
Hmm.
which is what was hinted at in the news article. And then they think she's lacking in the obsession,
Hmm.
like she is undeserving of their
Yep.
obsession. Um, and so we have a rejection letter from Crowley Literary Agency. Um, there's a submission tracker from 2015 that the person is like, I'm not sure what Heart Eater, if it's important, but it seems important.
Hmm.
And then we have Riley finding the artist for Red, having this like little note in there talking about how like Mila is this huge get for her, how
Yeah.
she's been worried about how to create this art that she wants to create, how she has an overall storyline, but this is a person who's willing to collab with her. All the things that we've sort of heard different versions
Hmm.
of, but in a much more vulnerable way because she's
Right.
journaling about it and she's worried about her work. Then we have a 2016 submission tracking where we have like Pulpastic Scene accepting some work. And we have this red ink person being like, "Is this all the harder she tried?" Like it's
Yeah.
really creepy. Um, and then they talk about the creator tormenting them, the red inked person. And so we find
I
out
mean,
that this was
they mentioned the man or whatever.
yeah.
Did they say the creator or?
No, but they'd already talked about how the creator is dead, so I feel
Hmm.
like that's but they did call it the man. You are correct.
Hmm.
And how they thought that torture would go on forever. Um, and how this person didn't get as much practice as the man did because he
Yeah.
told them about like how he had killed someone on accident, and they talk about like the realities of trying to create the red comics and how you can't really
Hmm.
do that because it's not based in reality. um but like how they were imagine like it was interesting to be part of this experiment when they knew that the real red would be tortured like this in another
Hmm.
way. And how this is all a dance and you just have to know your partner.
Yeah.
And
And it's all kind of playing out in a way similar to the comic.
yes, where they're like, well, I have to keep playing with her. You have to push, you can't push too hard, all these different things. Um, and then we have Riley, who's like having this journal in 2017 about if she made it or not. And this person is like, does she have to ask? And it's like, does she feel like she made it now? And it's like this internal person struggle with their identity. And this person is just mad that like they don't know.
I feel
Um,
like even people who are generally considered really successful still question their own success and if they've
right.
truly made it. I mean, like we can refer to Timothy
Freaking
Chalamet.
Sydney Sweeney is like one of the most prolific actresses right now, and she talks about how like a lot of the time she couldn't afford anything. Like,
I was
so
thinking like of Timothy Chalamet's like I'm destined for greatness. I will only pursue greatness in that speech that he gave at the
oh
Oscars.
yeah,
And
hmm
I was like, or maybe it was the Golden Globes, I can't remember. One of those. And how a lot of people were like questioning, the people that he mentioned, of like that he wanted to achieve their level of success and everything. And you look at Timothy Chalamet and you're like, you are incredibly successful. So I do think that it's a lot of times in the eye of the beholder.
yeah. And there's a lot of jealousy, obviously, from this as like someone who
Hmm.
was tortured to be a practice Riley, and then them seeing who this
Yes.
Riley person is and comparing themselves to it. And so she's talking about not having a ton of money, still needing to work, different
Hmm.
things for financial stability, but how like the comic has given her this pipeline of money, and this like these different side projects and
Hmm.
advertisers and all these things.
Working on their blog and everything, their website.
And she's just like, well, I would just like to be looking at like small things to give me the security. And in her head, she just wants to start really thinking about who she is as a person and an artist. And then we have another uh, journal from 2019. So she talks about how Michael left, how they were
Hmm.
kind of in this like weird relationship where it didn't seem like they were together. It seemed like they were almost like
Yeah.
roommates. And he
Well,
was
she
getting
mentions like feelings of betrayal because she thought that they were just really good friends.
and like close friends. And he was just like, well, you can do what you need to now, and I need to be out of this. And it feels like there was some kind of different perception in their relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
she's rethinking this because like she met him in 2013. Now she is an adult woman and she's sitting there being
Mm-hmm.
like, this was my close friend. I thought we were living together because it was mutually beneficial and he cared about me, but all of a sudden it feels like he only wanted to save me. And
Yeah.
that doesn't feel great. And she's just like, when do I get this actual stability? 'Cause she also is someone who like lost her parent, had to leave her
Yeah.
parent. And so she feels very alone. Um, and this person is like, wow, there was a man in her apartment once. It's like very bizarre.
Yeah.
Um, and how like the snippets they're seeing of her actual life are bleeding into like who this woman says she is on the
Mm-hmm.
outside. And they talk about
Again, another thing where like people aren't always as they seem.
And they were like, well, they were red ones. They were powerful enough to escape, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
she will too. And like they talk about this iteration of their creator and their belief that they could mold her into something new. Um, but like that it's all not really worth it. And their want for revenge and retribution is becoming less and less as they're with Riley and they see all these
Mm-hmm.
various parts of her. Um, then we see something else from the envelope where like Riley's second movie wasn't picked up because it wasn't enough like the first and they weren't interested. She played it too safe. Then we also find out that like Riley doesn't go to Comic Cons anymore
Yeah.
because
Of the
sh
situation that happened that we learned about previously.
with Mila specifically, like
Mm-hmm.
she like defended Mila and their like identity and got really angry. And so like the Comic-Con was like, nope, you're not allowed at our circuits anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
Mila like stepped back from it because they didn't want to be a part of it. But like she was really forced to do this because she was defending her friend. Like
Yeah.
that is really heartbreaking. Um, and then we go back to this red ink person who is like, I've been thinking of myself as red for some time now. I see this different version of her. But I did envy her once for the way that this person loved her who I killed. But like she has caused pain with her champion of violence in these like red
Mm-hmm.
comics. Like that's what she did. And there's a lot of blame for Riley for this in this section and how she is seen as the main character and they hate her for it. Like they do not believe that it's justified to love her like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about how she is a bitter and angry person and maybe if maybe she wants to die and that's actually what Riley's goal is through all of this and how that they do want to kill her. And
It's
there's
so interesting too, like you mentioned previously, there's a lot of jealousy here. It's
yes.
also just a really fascinating look on someone who has been harmed and
Mhm.
how they project those feelings of why that happened to them outward into blaming someone else and
Mhm.
how the blame has been placed upon the author of this comic and
Yes.
not the creator as much.
Mhm. And they like found her a whole book in short stories of Riley and they almost like you
Hmm.
can tell that there's jealousy in who Riley is as a person still like you
Yeah.
said of like she did all these things but she like didn't do anything with her life and she doesn't even like
Hmm.
what's coming through
She
is she
doesn't
doesn't
deserve it.
deserve
And
her life. Yeah. um and then we get the invitation to the AKA con that started this whole thing.
mhm.
And then we kind of have a final like note from Riley uh, while she's on hiatus and how she just feels like weird how she's lived for projects for so long that like taking this step back is very healing to her and makes her
Yeah.
think about the creative process more because she's like I used to journal, I used to do these things and now I've been it's what you and I sometimes talk about where like if you're a content person everything has to be created for content purposes. You have to like
Yeah.
maneuver yourself to someone who
And
is
it
doing
really does
something.
take a lot of joy out of these things too, when you feel like you have to do things and they have to
Yes.
have this level of deep meaning to them, et
Hmm.
cetera, and you're trying to constantly push yourself for that. So that was very relatable. And I
Yeah.
really think a lot of people, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, but a lot of people are taking steps back from social media a little bit
Yeah.
because of this burnout.
Yeah, and it is a huge burnout. I think especially like with millennials, which I think Kat like dives into a little bit with this, is like we think that in order to be able to have hobbies and enjoy them, they
Hmm.
have to work
They
for us
must be
because
monetized.
yeah, because in a capitalist society, like that's what millennials were told a lot is like you guys aren't participating enough. And so like everything we do is to participate and it can get frustrating. So and in this she also talks about something else, which is the guilt of stopping and
Guilt.
stepping back. Like
Hmm.
I feel guilty that like I've built this thing in my life and now I can't do it anymore.
This is
And
definitely a millennial feel to it because I know like I've seen even people just post feeling guilty about like sitting down to take a break and watch 30 minutes of a show instead of doing X, Y, or Z. And it's like, you're allowed to take a 30-minute break.
literally, I mean, and even like the guilt of like being someone who wants to do something so badly. Like you've heard me talk about it too, where it's like I so badly wanted to be a lawyer, it was everything. And then I
Hmm.
hated it so much that I quit. And now I sit around thinking like, but if you were still a lawyer, you could be helping people. And it's like, well, yes, but like at the at the turn of
At
like
the
me
expense
hurting
of,
myself.
yeah, of
Yeah.
your
And so it's
own
just
health.
yeah. And so it is like a very apt journal entry right
Yeah.
before all of this stuff
Yeah.
happened.
So much of this is so deep and relatable.
And so fast paced.
Yeah.
Like, um, and so then we go back to Red Ink, who is like, I read Riley's book. I liked it more than Red. And they're like thinking about how they're too close to it, but
I love
they're,
that recognition though of being like, I think I'm too close to this
yeah,
actually. Like how long does it take someone to realize, okay, I
yeah,
think maybe I've gotten too close to the situation. Like,
right.
yikes.
And they talk about how while they're waiting for Riley to recover, they're gonna take some time to transcribe. And they want to work with Riley to make this kind of have two authors. And it's fun to work on because even though they never thought they were a writer, talking about their self and their trauma feels interesting. And that the creator taught them one thing: it's noble effort to finish other people's stories,
Hmm.
which is very creepy. And then they talk about how they need an ending and how to do the final because they just don't know. Will they
Well, they don't know
be?
if they want to be a killer or a hero.
Hmm.
Ugh,
And
gross.
then we're at part five, Red. And boy, is this a huge switch up that I was not expecting.
I didn't expect this either.
Yes, because it's called Red Response, an interview with Riley Dawson. And someone says that they're talking about Recreator, which is a story that swept the nation, an independent web comic being abducted and tortured, and
Well,
how
the
she,
author of an independent
oh,
webcomic
sorry. Yeah.
was kidnapped and tortured
And
by
then
a
they
fan.
sit down with Riley Elizabeth Dawson to do this
Hmm.
because Riley got married to a person who helped save her, Sam Dawson. And
Hmm.
so in this interview,
Red. Red.
RED are her initials. And so we're hearing from Red herself. And this is allegedly Riley, and she's talking about how
Mhm.
she was abducted and held by this creator man, and she was with another woman who helped and was there for her during this time, and how this man just kept watching over her and torturing her and doing all these things. And it was just so awful. And then on her final day, she was able to get one over on him to hurt him. And she tried to save the other girl, but she was unable to. And the girl sacrificed herself and told her to run. And so so Riley was able to escape and get into his car and drive away. But they were unable to find this bunker or anything other than this man's
Yeah.
identifying information. Um, and that was just through his vehicle. And so there are a lot of lingering questions about it. But Riley has written a memoir about her experience, and she is writing
Well,
her.
the other thing too, though, so she runs out and so like they never found the facility or anything. She runs out, she finds this police officer, Sam Dawson, and then it's revealed that she had to have reconstructive
Yeah. Oh, sorry,
surgeries.
I did leave that part out. Yeah, she said that they probably look more like. She goes, well, the girl probably looked like me before my reconstructive surgeries, and she has like all
Hmm.
these scars over her, um, and how like she is rebuilding her life now. And she wrote this
Yeah.
memoir about everything that happened to her, but she's also publishing the first book she's ever written. She's never written another book before this, which
Hmm.
is a hint to us and how she's not doing much with her art overall, but it's really just this writing. Um, and then it says that she's recreating Red is the book, the memoir that she came out with, and it has a dedication from Riley herself from one red to another.
Bleh.
So creepy. It's such a like I
It
was
freaked me out.
so
So the
yeah.
reconstructive surgeries is when I finally figured it out. When I was like, oh my gosh, what?
So I like until then I wasn't sure. I wasn't even sure. Like I knew what had happened, but I didn't want to accept it. Like because
Well, I
when
think I was
she's
kind of there too, where I was like, no, that couldn't have happened. She did get out. And then when we got to it's the last page and it says reconstructive surgeries, and I'm like, no.
I figured it out when she was like, "Well, I was tortured by this man," and I was like, "Well, she definitely wasn't." And like this woman wouldn't have been with her, so I was like, "So this has to
Mhm.
be the other person," and it was like, "No, but it can't be the other person." And I'm like,
No, it is.
yeah,
I really liked it though,
it
because
was so good.
it
I
was
mean, it's a
really
horror
effective,
film,
and
like,
it does the thing too where there's that cringy moment where I married my savior type thing. I married the police officer who saved me, but it's all the more creepy when you know that this is actually the person who did the horrendous actions.
well, and she
And
talks about how
oh,
like she can't see
so
Mila
well done.
anymore, and it's like, of
Hmm.
course she can't see Mila. Mila would know that
Yep.
something was up. Like,
Yep.
oh, it's so creepy. Oh gosh, what a good horror novel for
This is
Indie Mission in
excellent.
October. Like it packs such a punch. Like you saw that I posted some of the editing on Discord. It's beautiful. Like just
Hmm.
looking at these pages. This is my copy, so I'm not ruining the copy we got, but like just everything about it is beautiful.
What's
So,
even more impressive, I read in the acknowledgments that this was created during that 24-hour novel writing challenge.
right.
And
It's
I think
crazy.
that is amazing. I just think that this whole story was incredibly well done and just honestly perfectly written, incredibly creepy. I love it so much.
I love this
And the
book. I can't
themes,
wait to
oh,
talk about Cat. Like, I can't wait to talk to Cat about this book because
yeah.
it hits such a punch. Like, this is spectacular. I'm so impressed by
It's
this.
so creative too, is the thing where I mean, so many of these things are things that you would see in other like horror or
Hmm.
thriller things, but the way that they're kind of played with and made new, it's amazing.
Well, and sometimes, like, people often talk about how, like, horror comes in like liminal spaces where if you don't know what's happening, it's creepier. And
Hmm.
like, that's why, like, again, not to bring it back to Jaws or Scream, but like, that's why Jaws works is because you never see the shark for the first half of the movie, and not seeing it
Hmm.
makes it scarier.
Yeah.
A la Deep Blue Sea is very ineffective as a horror film. Like, but
I
like,
also think that there's a weird uh like horror aspect to things that are normal. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And I think that that is played with here too, where we have like all these chat rooms. People normally go on chat rooms, things that are considered normal hobbies or habits. There is a little bit of a creepiness or a way to create something horrific out of normalcy that is done here.
yes.
Like the
But
fandom is created in a way that like there's so many fandoms that are very like what I would consider like along these lines like thriller or horror, but they're not as sinister in this way.
yeah,
And
that's true.
she very much was able to take something that's very normal in our society, like attending conventions or talking about a favorite story online, and make it incredibly creepy.
It's so creepy. It's
It's
so
excellent.
effective. And I love like there's so many deep things of like
I
you
mean, we
can't
talked about a lot of themes too.
yeah.
It's great.
Just like because like yeah, the first part really is like can you separate art from the artist? What is the artist responsible for?
Hmm.
And then the second half is like
I mean, it also plays a lot with the role that women have within publishing and like art as well, too.
yeah.
And I think that that's fascinating because we often consider women the victims in
Mm-hmm.
especially horror and thriller and just society in
Yeah.
general. So, yeah, for this to be a unique look at womanhood and femininity and like who is allowed to tell what kind of story,
Yeah.
I think is
Well,
great.
because that's an interesting part of this red character who we see where she talks about like how dare Riley talk about my experience? And we
Hmm.
don't know what happened to this red character before they met the
Yeah.
creator. So like their specific experience could be very horrendous throughout their entire life, or it
Hmm.
could have been this one experience that they signed up for and then they got, and like you can't sign up for anything willingly like this. I'm not saying that, but like they did meet the creator. They were a willing participant at some point because like they had a sexual relationship with him. But then on the other side, like if they didn't have a traumatic past before this, they're still being like, well, how dare Riley talk about my experience? And it's like, well, Riley is
Yeah.
the person who inspired this technically. And that is an interesting, like, circle to get
Yeah.
into and it's hard to get out of. Like it's fascinating.
I think that's also kind of cool to talk about like who inspires what work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that to think of like where our inspirations for work come from because we see Riley actually looking up inspirations for her work and then
Mhm.
other people being in turn inspired by her.
Yeah.
Oh, what a book.
I know.
A really short
Fantastic.
one, but just so much to it.
It's, this is like a perfect, it really hits that like Criminal Mindsy like thing, where you're really
I
getting
don't know
into the
why, but
heart
I
of
think
it.
you and I read a lot of novellas that really are incredibly deep, and I think we're always just so impressed by authors who are able to like do so much in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I
Because we've
agree.
talked to like Moses Oseotomi, we've talked to Nevo, Martha Wells. I mean, you've talked a lot about Shauna McGuire's works. Those are
Yeah.
novellas. I've read several Sphinx novellas that do the same thing. Like a lot of these really short works are very impressive because they're
Right.
packing a lot of deep
I
thoughts and
did
themes in here.
I did technically skip Small September, but it is always fun to do like a Small September where you're like, let's focus on books that are under 200 or under 300 pages sometimes. But
Mhm.
like The Woods All Black, like that one was huge for me last year. Like there's just so many good things in here. So it's just, oh God, what an amazing book. Happy
Yeah,
to have read it. Great
this was an
recommendation.
excellent indie intermission pick. Like
Oh my
I
gosh.
am so happy with it.
I
Also,
know.
pass it, dear listener, pass it. If you are listening and you have not read Revenge Arc, you need to read it right away. I think you would love it.
I think you would. Like this is definitely I remember reading the book you recommended to me and that one was like very funny but very dark and I think that this
Hmm.
is very much that. So please everyone if you
Pass it
if you
like
just
sweet
listen
pea. So I think that this would be very much up. Pass it.
if someone has listened to this entire plot but like hasn't read it, please read it because like there's
Yeah,
so
it
much more to it.
visually it's stunning and it's hard to explain in an audio format how good this book is.
Yeah. So please do that. And please join us next week as we close out this indie mission with an interview with the author. We're very
Yes.
excited to have her on. We cannot wait. So please do that. And in the meantime, can you please make sure that you're throwing us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok? Those are the places we are
Blue Sky. We're
primarily.
not
Oh,
on Twitter
so
anymore.
I'm so sorry. I don't know where my mind is. Blue Sky is where we exist. We do not we do not go to the app that must not be
Formerly
named.
Twitter.
Um, but yes, follow us there. We would love to have you there or join us on Discord. We are chit chatting on Discord or try to chit
Yeah,
chat as much
Hannah
as we
shared some
can.
pics of Revenge Arc there.
So please make sure you're following us over there. And if you would be so kind, please rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to get people to us. I feel like we've gotten a
Yeah.
little bit of an uptick over on YouTube that I talked about
Hmm.
recently,
Yeah,
but
thanks so
we
much.
appreciate it everywhere. We see it. We appreciate you. And,
Thanks for
do that.
listening today.
Yeah. And we hope to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.